Everyone wants to be great. Everyone says they want to rise to the top, to lead the field, to be the best. But most people never get there. Not because they lack the ability, because they never truly commit to what greatness demands. They want the glory without the grind, the praise without the pressure, the rewards without the repetition, position without the preparation. And so, they stay in the middle, decent, average, replaceable. Being the best at anything is rarely about talent alone. It's about obsession. It's about showing up again and again until the habit is so strong that even on your worst day, you still outshine most people on their best. It's about discipline that allows no excuses, standards that never lower, systems that don't let you fall off track, and a belief that refuses to bend to circumstances. The great ones are not built in quick bursts. They are built in quiet moments, in the mornings when no one is watching, in the choices no one celebrates, in the hours when it would be easy to give up. Greatness doesn't grow only when you feel inspired. It grows when you feel nothing, but still do what's needed. Formed in friction, reinforced by resistance, and solidified through sacrifice, there are patterns to excellence, clear, repeatable principles that separate the few from the many. Once you understand them, once you install those habits, once you tie your identity to something that cannot be shaken, there is no ceiling to what you can achieve. The only real limit is how much of yourself you're willing to give. You don't need endless motivation. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a set of rules you live by, a code that directs your daily actions no matter how you feel. Because the person at the top didn't arrive there by luck. They chose it. And they made that choice every single day. So let's get into it, because time is precious, and what's precious is usually in short supply. The first step to becoming the best at almost anything is to build your foundation in silence. The elite don't start loud. They start unseen. They work in the shadows, in the early hours, and in the late nights when no one is around. They're not waiting for praise, and they're not chasing attention. They're too busy putting in the work. The start is not about applause. It's about identity. You don't need fans. You need self-control. If you only train when people notice, you'll never build habits that last. If you only work when it's convenient, you'll never stay consistent long enough to rise above the rest. You have to become hooked on invisible progress. You have to love the days that feel like no one is watching, because that's when real momentum is built. Who reach the top aren't driven by recognition. They're driven by vision. They know exactly who they are becoming and don't need anyone else to approve. They don't need cheerleaders to stay on track. Their work is their encouragement, their discipline is their motivation, and their progress is their prize. People never make it out of this silent stage. They get bored. They get discouraged. They think that if no one is noticing, nothing is happening. Growth doesn't care about visibility. Excellence doesn't need an audience to exist. Mastery isn't born in front of crowds. It's born in solitude, in repetition, in making the same choice over and over until it becomes second nature. If you want to be the best, start working as if you already are. Train as if it's already yours. Show up as if you're already leading the way. Because the standard you set when no one's watching is the standard that will hold you up when the pressure comes. If you can't build in silence, you won't survive in the spotlight. If you can't stay steady when it's tough, you won't last when it gets tougher. You don't magically rise to the challenge. You fall to the level of your preparation. And if that preparation is built on discipline instead of feelings, never fall below greatness. You must become the type of person who doesn't need a push, who doesn't need reminders, who doesn't wait for motivation. You just move. You just do the work, not because it's exciting, but because it's simply who you are. Excellence isn't something you chase. It's something you embody. Stop waiting for people to notice you. Start building something they can't ignore. Stop hoping the world will believe in you. Start working so your results speak for themselves. Stop measuring your worth by attention. Measure it by alignment. When your actions every day match the person you're trying to be, the world will have no choice but to pay attention. The second way to become the best is to master your fundamentals. True mastery isn't found in fancy tricks, built in complicated strategies. It's created through the basics, simple actions done with relentless consistency. Long after others have moved on, after the excitement is gone, long after it feels repetitive, that's where the best live, where the basics are no longer a chore, but the very structure they build on. Everyone wants to skip steps. Everyone wants to jump ahead. Everyone is chasing the next level. But the ones who dominate are obsessed with the simple things. They're not above the basics. They are the basics. You don't rise by doing extraordinary things once in a while. Rise by doing ordinary things at an extraordinary standard every single day. You sharpen skills until they are automatic. You drill the same move until your body reacts without hesitation. You don't just know what to do. You become it. Most people get stuck not because they're untalented, because they get restless. They stop doing what got them there. They look for shortcuts. They crave novelty. They start guessing instead of refining. But the great ones don't need variety to stay committed. They need mastery. They do the same reps, the same drills, the same patterns until they can't get them wrong. It feels easy. You don't move on. You turn up the intensity. You refine the precision. You raise the standard. The best don't practice until they get it right. They practice until they can't get it wrong. Their execution becomes a reflex. Their confidence comes from hours of proof, moments of hype. Their foundation is so strong that nothing can shake it. Not stress, not fatigue, not pressure. You can't skip your way to the top. And even if you somehow do, you won't stay there. Those who skip the grind always get exposed when it matters, when the speed increases, when the stakes rise. They break because their base was weak. If your fundamentals are solid, your habits unshakable, your base unmovable, you don't break, you don't freeze. You just execute better than anyone else. Third step is to be unreasonably consistent. Not sometimes, consistent. Not when it's easy, consistent. Not when I feel motivated, consistent. Unreasonably consistent, so committed that people wonder how you keep showing up. So steady that your habits are no longer connected to your mood. So reliable that discipline becomes a core part of who you are. Talent will fade. Emotions will shift. Motivation will disappear. But consistency will remain. It will carry you through the low points. It will protect your progress when life tries to pull you off track. Most people stay committed only when it feels good. They follow through when it's convenient. They train hard for a few weeks, then vanish for a few more. They write for 2 days, then quit. They go all in for a weekend. Away, then burn out. They start strong, but they don't finish. That's not how greatness works. You don't become elite by showing up when it's sunny. You become elite by showing up in the rain, in the dark, on the days when you'd rather quit, when no one would judge you for skipping. That's where the gap is created. The best aren't the most naturally gifted. They are the ones who made a decision that says, no matter what, I show up. No matter how I feel, I execute. No matter the conditions, I perform. Repeating that choice daily becomes identity, and identity produces results. You don't need more intensity. You need more frequency. You don't need to sprint for 3 hours once a week. You need to show up for 30 minutes every day. You don't need perfection, you need presence. Keep the streak alive. Prove to yourself over and over that you're someone who doesn't stop. Even if the work is short, even if it's messy, even if you're tired, even if you feel stuck, you still show up. Because that's what professionals do. That's what leaders do. That's what the best do. Consistency multiplies everything. Your effort, your focus, your results. You might not see the progress each day, but over time, it builds into something unstoppable. You might not notice it day to day, but over weeks, over months, and over years, it builds up It creates a gap so wide that no one can cross unless they've lived with the same level of discipline. You won't see instant results, and that's exactly why most people give up. They think their habits aren't working because they can't see what's being built. Something is being built every single time you follow through. You're casting votes, stacking proof, strengthening the identity of someone who keeps their word. Eventually, your baseline becomes better than most people's best because you've repeated it so many times. You've made it so automatic, so deep in your system, that even on your worst day, you're still moving forward, still growing, still building. That's the level you have to live at, not because you'll feel like it every single day, because your goals deserve your consistency more than your comfort deserves a break. Your vision deserves habits more than your feelings deserve an excuse. The next way to become the best at anything is to embrace obsession. The best don't just dabble. They don't kind of want it. They're not sort of interested. They're all in, fully, deeply, without apology. They're not balanced, they're obsessed. And that's exactly what it takes. Because being the best at anything demands an unreasonable level of commitment. A level that most won't understand. A level that will look extreme to people who are used to average. Obsession is not a weakness. It's a power. It pulls you through resistance, keeps you locked in when others drift, and removes the need for constant motivation because you're consumed by the mission. You're not trying to squeeze it into your life. You're building your life around it. People will tell you to slow down, to be realistic, to take a break. And if you listen, you'll end up like them, burned out, uninspired, just going through the motions. If you want to lead, if you want to dominate, if you truly want to be the best, you don't follow average advice. You don't lower your drive just to make others feel comfortable. You raise your standard, you raise your volume, you raise your obsession, and you live there, not for a week, until you see results, but for as long as it takes, as long as it demands, until your vision is so real to you that you can't turn it off. You wake up thinking about it, you go to sleep planning for it, you breathe it, you become it. You stop doing the bare minimum. You stop hoping things will work out. You start doing the extra reps, staying the extra hour, asking the extra questions, reviewing the extra footage, reading the same material, breaking it down, and rebuilding it. Not because someone told you to, because you can't imagine not doing it. Obsession isn't about being flawless. It's about being driven by the outcome, relentlessly pulled by your own potential, refusing to accept anything less than the highest standard, not because of outside pressure, but because of personal principle. Because deep down you know you were built for more, and now you're acting like it. Most people live scattered, distracted, pulled in 100 small directions, never go deep into anything. They never stick with something long enough to break through. They never push past the boredom, the repetition, the grind. So they stay surface level, and then they wonder why nothing lasts. But obsession changes that. Obsession clears the noise. It simplifies your life. You stop feeling the need to say yes to everything. You stop needing to be everywhere, and you focus. You cut away distractions. You streamline. When something becomes your true priority, everything else becomes optional. It's not about working 20 hours a day. It's about living in alignment. It's about removing everything that doesn't serve the mission. It's about building a life that mirrors your vision, not just in theory, but in structure, in habits, in actions, in energy. If you want to be great, get obsessed. Forget balance. Find alignment. Build your days around your craft. Guard your time like it's priceless. Say no to what dulls your edge. Surround yourself with people who challenge your focus instead of weakening your drive. And when someone calls you intense, thank them. When they call you obsessed, agree. Because the ones who change the world, the ones who lead their field, the ones who redefine what's possible, they're never casual. They're never lukewarm. Kind of committed. They're all in, completely, unapologetically. not for recognition, but for the standard, not for applause, but for the purpose, for the image, but for the identity. And that identity is built through obsession. Here's the next part: detach from the outcome and commit to the process. People fail because they obsess over the end result and ignore the system that gets them there. They want the reward, but they resist the repetition. They measure every day, every effort, every step by whether or not it gives them a visible win. And if it doesn't, they lose motivation, doubt the process, pull back, and go looking for something easier. That's why they never gain momentum, because momentum is built on the invisible days. It's built in the small reps. It's built in the discipline that looks like it's doing nothing, but is actually building everything. You don't become the best by chasing the result. You do it by mastering your craft, showing up no matter what, and focusing on what you can control. Can't control how fast results arrive, and you can't control how others respond, but you can control your effort, your intensity, and your execution. Detach from the outcome. Stop staring at the scoreboard. Stop checking your numbers every day. Stop looking for validation in daily performance. Instead, focus on the process, the rituals, the routine. A system that works whether you feel motivated or not, whether the conditions are perfect or messy. Because when you have the right system, results take care of themselves. You don't chase them. They come as a side effect of relentless consistency. That consistency only appears when you stop making the result your idol and start making your habits your anchor. Fall in love with the repetition. Fall in love with the hours no one sees. Fall in love with the days where the work feels unnoticed. The structure that might look boring from the outside but sharpens you on the inside. That's where the real gap is created. That's where the best are made. Anyone can be excited about a goal. Anyone can show up when results are quick. But can you keep going when there's no applause? Can you keep working when the scale doesn't move, progress isn't obvious, and the feedback is silent? That's what separates the average from the great. You're not here just to feel excited. You're here to be excellent. Excellence isn't found in hype. It's found in rhythm, in showing up the same way on day 1,000 as you did on day one. Not because it's fun, because it's who you are now. Your identity isn't built by results, it's built by routine. And when your routine is unshakable, your confidence becomes unshakable too. You don't need anyone else to confirm your worth because you've already proven it to yourself. One disciplined choice at a time. Here's the irony. When you stop needing results to feel valuable, they come faster. When you stop attaching your worth to speed, your pace becomes smoother. You stop staring at the finish line, you start running with more clarity. Your joy is in the work, in the process, in the daily commitment. Detach from the outcome, marry the process, stay in the work even when it feels like nothing is changing, because something always is. Inside you, around you, through you. Keep building. Keep moving. Keep sharpening. Trust that the result will take care of itself. The next big one, seek pressure. Most people run from it. They dodge it. They avoid anything that feels heavy. They want progress without struggle, strength without challenge, success without discomfort. But pressure isn't the enemy. It's your training ground. It's the only environment where growth becomes non-negotiable. You don't get better by coasting. You don't grow by staying comfortable. You don't expand your limits when everything is easy. You grow when the weight is heavy, when the demand is greater than your current ability. The challenge feels bigger than your confidence. That's where evolution begins. That's where identity is built. Pressure shows you the gaps. It exposes your weak points. It reveals what cracks when the pace picks up. And that's a gift, because now you know exactly where to work, exactly what to fix, exactly how to reinforce your foundation. Who rise to the top don't run from pressure. They chase it. They put themselves in situations where average won't work, where mediocrity is exposed, where their best is required. They don't fear the weight. They welcome it because they know it's what shapes them. Pressure sharpens you. It polishes you. If you want to be elite, put yourself under some weight. Set a pace that forces your full focus. Get in rooms where you're not the best. Take on challenges that make you doubt yourself at first, because that doubt, that tension, that stress is the signal that you're growing. Proof you're no longer stuck in cruise control. And when pressure comes, don't flinch, don't fold, don't panic. Breathe, focus, rise. Pressure isn't there to break you. It's there to wake you up, to show you what you're capable of when you stop playing it safe. People crack under pressure not because they can't handle it, but because they never trained for it. They've lived their whole lives chasing comfort, so when life asks more from them, they freeze, unsure how to respond. But you're not like most people. You've been preparing for moments like this. You've built yourself for it. You live for the challenge. You've stopped seeing pressure as punishment and started seeing it as preparation, as opportunity, as the final test that shows if you've done the work. And if you've put in the work, if your habits are sharp, if your identity is solid, you don't run from pressure. You lean into it. You welcome it. You take control of it, because pressure doesn't change who you are. It shows who you really are. And if you've been building with honesty, if you've been training in silence, if you've been showing up when nobody was watching, then pressure becomes your stage. It becomes the place where you perform, not because you're lucky, because it's simple, but because you're ready. You become calm when the heat is on, sharp when things get tough, focused when tension rises. And while everyone else is breaking apart, you're locking in. While they make excuses, you're making progress. While they hesitate, you execute. That's what sets you apart. That's what makes you different. Seek out pressure, not recklessly, but with intention. Put yourself in places that stretch you. Take on challenges that demand everything you've got. Lead when it's uncomfortable. Act when the stakes are high. Then watch how much you grow in the process. Here's the seventh way. Study your craft like your life depends on it. Mastery isn't just about showing up. It's about knowing what you're stepping into. It's about understanding the rules, the players, the strategies, the patterns. It's about learning the psychology, the timing, the openings. You don't become the best by guessing. You become the best by being a student. Most people want to win without learning. They want to lead without preparing. They want respect without doing the research. But excellence doesn't work that way. You can't outperform what you don't understand. You can't outthink a system you haven't studied. The best are obsessive learners. They ask questions. They break down failures. They study results. They don't just practice. They reflect. They don't just repeat. They improve. They don't just work hard. They study the work. They examine every angle, every cause, every pattern. They want to know what works and why. That's how they move with confidence. That's why they're so accurate. Not because they guessed, but because they prepared. Because they trained their mind as hard as they trained their body. Because they didn't just grind, they learned. They saw what others missed. Treat your craft like a top athlete treats game film. Review it, break it down. Ask yourself what worked, what failed. Where did I pause? Where did I give in? I reacting instead of acting. That's how you sharpen your edge. Study the greats, but don't just admire them, analyze them. Watch how they move, how they speak, how they think. Don't just take notes. Absorb, break apart, understand what they've mastered that you haven't. Then close that gap. Read again. Watch again. Practice again. Knowledge is nothing unless you use it, so apply what you learn and test it. Don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to fail. That's part of the process. Every miss is information. Every mistake is a free lesson if you're humble enough to learn from it. And don't just study what feels easy. Study your weak spots. Study the skills you've avoided. Study the people who beat you. Learn how they think. Learn what you've refused to see. Because sometimes what you're missing isn't effort, it's understanding. You want to be the best? Then get curious. Get relentless about learning your surroundings. Get obsessed with knowing your own patterns. Get intentional about your weaknesses. The more you understand, the less you fear. The more you know, the faster you move. Studying your craft means you're not surprised by challenges. You've seen them coming. You've trained for them. You walk into situations with clarity, confusion, with strategy, not guessing. That's how leaders move. That's how winners prepare. Every day is a lesson. Every result is feedback. Every challenge is a textbook. But only if you pay attention, only if you think about it, only if you're humble enough to admit you still have more to learn. Make learning your weapon. Make awareness your edge. Make understanding your advantage. Because knowledge without use is wasted. Knowledge applied with accuracy. That's what turns a competitor into a master. The eighth way to become the best is to control your inner state before you try to control anything else. The world moves fast. Life brings chaos. Pressure piles up. People let you down. Plans fall apart. And if you can't lead yourself through that, if you can't steady your mind under stress, you'll never last long enough to reach the top. People break not because they're weak, but because they lack emotional discipline. They let frustration guide their actions. They let fear talk them out of progress. They let stress fog their thinking. The moment life pushes back, they fall apart, not from lack of strength, but because they never built resistance. You have to stop reacting to everything. Stop handing over your power to every delay, every trigger, every setback. The world isn't going to slow down. Pressure isn't going to disappear. But you can learn to lead through it. You can train yourself to stay grounded, steady, locked in, no matter what's going on around you. The ones who rise are not the ones who avoid chaos. They're the ones who can work inside it. They can keep clarity while others panic. They can stay calm while others get emotional. They can think clearly while others spiral. That's what makes the elite stand out. And it's not by accident. Practice controlling yourself. Build habits that center you. Movement, breathing, quiet time, reflection. Create structure when the world feels unstable. Create stillness inside when it's loud outside. Because the strongest person in the room isn't the loudest, it's the calmest. The one not controlled by triggers. The one who can feel deeply and still choose their response. That's true strength. That's leadership. It's not about pretending things are fine. It's about moving forward even when they're not. It's about feeling emotion without becoming it. It's about acknowledging stress without drowning in it. It's about noticing fear but still acting like the person you said you'd be. Train for it. Put yourself in pressure situations on purpose. Get uncomfortable on purpose. Start paying attention to how you act when you're irritated. Track your patterns when you're anxious. Watch how you respond when things go wrong. That's the data you need. People try to control their outside world without realizing they've lost control of their inside world. They try to fix their schedule, their to-do list, their plan, but their mind is scattered, their emotions are shaky, their identity is fragile. No matter how smart your strategy is, if your mind breaks under pressure, you lose. Inner strength like a muscle. Build emotional control like a skill. Create personal rules for how you respond. Create mental structure. Protect your focus and energy like it's priceless, because it is. Time doesn't come back. Attention doesn't come back. Once spent, it's gone. You want to be unshakable. Lead yourself daily, especially when it's hard, especially when old habits return, especially when you feel like quitting. Breathe. Pause. Decide who's leading, your fear or your standard. When your inner world is steadier than your outer world, nothing can stop you. Not the market, not the weather, not opinions. Failure. You keep showing up. You keep making clear moves. You keep moving forward because your results aren't based on emotion anymore. They're built on structure. The ninth way to become the best at anything, remove plan B. Burn the backup. Stop giving yourself an escape route. Because every time you leave a back door open, a part of you will walk through it. Every time you say, "We'll see what happens is nothing." Half commitment produces half results, and half results never create greatness. The best in any field didn't make a soft promise to themselves. They made an unbreakable vow, a total decision, a line they refuse to cross back over, a decision that says, "This is who I am now, there is no going back." That's what gives discipline its power. You can't become the best while leaving room for average. You can't step into your future while keeping a foot in your past. You can't build something lasting while secretly allowing yourself to quit when it gets tough. Most people don't need more talent. They need more commitment. I'll try. Not, I'll give it a go. Not, I'll do my best. Real commitment, no escape, no exit, one way forward. That's what creates urgency. That's what forces growth. Because when you remove quitting as an option, your mind stops bargaining. Your excuses lose strength. Your energy stops being spent on, "What if this fails?" and starts being spent on, "How do I make this work no matter what?" You begin looking for answers instead of exits.